my major was originally criminal justice. I am a security sergeant at a level 1 trauma center, have been within the law enforcement security community for almost approximately 10 years now. As you can even tell from our team name in the past, from 2007, Paranormal Security Department. It was meant to be proactive. The thing is that we can actually show how law enforcement and the paranormal field operate almost the same. So to be in the law enforcement community allowed me to use particular techniques and talents to put it into the paranormal field. And you just find out how it all comes together. So let's compare. You've got the paranormal field. You've got ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, and paranormal researchers. In law enforcement, you've got patrolmen, you've got detectives, you've got forensic scientists. Now, ghost hunters, it's as it sounds. They're just basically looking to capture any form of documentation of ghosts. Patrolmen, basically the police out on patrol, focus on looking for crimes that are currently being committed or to deter crime. And paranormal investigator, they're investigating. They're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. The equivalent of a detective after a crime has occurred. They have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Paranormal researcher and a forensic scientist. Paranormal researchers do a lot of the forensic work, along with some investigative work. Same with the forensic scientists. They still do investigative work to a degree, but they focus on physics and many other types of forensics. Continuing with the comparison, paranormal field, we record audio, video, photos. Guess what they do in law enforcement? They record audio, video, and photos. Both sides generate reports. We both do background checks. We both gather statistical data. And we both analyze the data. One of the charts that we use, very simple chart, is the triangle of knowledge. Above, we've got space weather, considering basically the heavens, so to speak. Below, we got the human body, and then we also got the environment. We look at all these particular areas to determine how spiritual activity has an effect on every single aspect of this. Now, obviously, spiritual activity may not have an effect on space weather, but how does space weather have an effect, or solar weather have any effect on the human body, which may have an effect on spiritual activity? Such as, you get a solar flare that goes towards the Earth. It actually can create, from what scientists have said, it can create lightning storms. It creates the aurora borealis. It has an effect. But then from there, what type of effect does that have on the general environment below the clouds? And then how does that affect spiritual activity? All of it is a cause and effect. Let's take a look at some of the traditional theories here. A traditional theory, we've got kids and ghosts and aging. We're taught in the paranormal field that as kids grow older, they become more closed-minded, and it causes them not to be able to see ghosts anymore, or even hear them. Okay, yeah, that's what we like to call the hocus pocus theories. Oh, I understand ghosts now. I understand what they are. Hocus pocus. Guess what? You can't see them anymore. I would like to think that I'm an open-minded person. And, considering I'm open-minded and I want to see the stuff, why can't I see them then? So, knowing this, I decided to take a step back and go, wait a second. Maybe I should focus on other aspects here, such as the wording. Here's some key words. Feel. See. Hear. Now, everyone seems to focus, when they think of intuitives and psychics and such, they're focusing on the brain. Well, the brain is the main function that's basically, it sends messages and receives messages throughout the body. When they say they can't see a ghost anymore, why are people automatically jumping to the brain? They can't see them. This is sending a message to the brain. It starts here. So that raised some questions for us. Okay, they can't see them. Maybe we should look further into this. This leads into biology now. What Can as we get older, do the eyes get better? Do they get weaker? Or do they just stay the same? How does the body develop? Well, it turns out, as we grow older, the light spectrum that we can see actually shrinks as we get older. Same with the frequency when it comes to hearing.
Okay, if you can hear 8,000 hertz, you're both alive and not hearing impaired. But let's keep raising the frequency. How high could you hear? If you could hear all of those frequencies, you're probably under 20 years old, but that won't last forever. Unlike other organs such as the liver or skin, the inner ear does not have the capacity to regenerate. In your ear, there are thousands of tiny nerve cells called hair cells. These are responsible for picking up different frequencies and sending the signal to the brain where it's processed. But as you age, the continual exposure to noise and loud sounds can break, bend, and destroy these cells. So why do the high frequencies go first? It turns out that the hairs tuned to high pitches are the first to encounter sound waves. As a result, they experience more stress and tend to degenerate earlier, which is why the older you are, the harder it is to hear high pitches.
Now, think about that for a second. When they say they can't hear or see, does that imply that it has anything to do, or that it may have to do with their ears and eyes as opposed to psychic abilities or superpowers, so to speak? Maybe intuitive consultants, they develop differently. We actually conducted an experiment with one of our intuitive consultants where they say they can hear frequencies that other people can't hear. So we're like, okay, fair enough. We had them face away from us, had a computer facing us, and we did frequency tests on them. We had them basically raise their hand every time they came across a particular frequency. By the end of the experiment, we found that he was able to hear, or that he reacted to, 5 hertz. A frequency level of 5 hertz. That's 15 hertz below the average hearing of a child when they're at their peak. That has nothing to do with superpowers. That has to do with the development of the body. This means some of the equipment that we have to use, such as the full spectrum camera. The full spectrum camera, what it does is it actually takes out the spectrum that we can see with the naked eye and focuses on UV and IR. So we can take pictures within. Now, keep in mind that every form of light, every color vibrates at a different frequency. This camera, the full spectrum camera, is capturing frequencies that the naked eye cannot see. Everything vibrates. Colors and everything. That's how we came up with our rainbow effect theory. With the visible light spectrum, they can change the vibration, which they would have to use energy to do this. Change the vibration so that they can be seen. Now, if you notice, when an apparition appears, they don't appear for very long. They appear they can be seen with the naked eye, but then they're gone in a flash. How far into the light spectrum do they go, and in which direction? Do they vibrate at a higher level, or do they vibrate at a lower level? That's the question that we're still looking for, or still trying to answer at this point. It also led us to the thunderstorm effect theory, where we compare the manifestation process from a thunderstorm and a ghost. Now, if you look up in the sky on a clear day, there's no clouds basically, but then clouds they form out of nowhere. It's just like a ghost; they manifest out of nowhere. But we can't honestly say that it's magic. Hocus pocus, there they are. Hocus pocus, there's a cloud. There's a cause and effect. What is causing that cloud to form? So we even looked at the way thunderstorms and ghosts basically are, what they're made out of. Thunderstorm, they contain EMF. Guess what ghosts contain? EMF. They both set them off. High humidity. We've noticed the higher the humidity, the more likely we get thunderstorms, and the higher the humidity, more likely we get an apparition. They both are affected by solar flares. Both affected by the moon, whether it be a new moon or full moon. Water is affected by the moon. Take a look at the tide, for instance. Allegedly, we are affected. People are affected by the moon. If you look at what we're made out of, the majority of the human body is made out of water.
Gravity affects the motion of all objects identically. So if gravity from the moon and the sun is really responsible for tides in the ocean, and water is water, then why don't we see tides in lakes?
But now that raised questions to us going, well, wait a minute. Why is a ghost being affected by the moon? Now, they both can create sound. You hear ghosts walking around, they can interact with physical objects, and they can also speak.
Stop! You're hurting my friends!
Without the use of vocal cords and a tongue, teeth. They don't have any of that. So how do they talk? Now, let me ask you a question. Because the typical theory is that ghosts are made out of EMF. EMF is basically electromagnetics. That's a heating substance. If you get struck by lightning, do you freeze? No, you don't. At least last I knew. Now, but at the same time, this heating substance that's up in the sky right now, that can create this, we have cooling substance, you have moisture, you have the stuff that's producing rain, but meanwhile you have lightning at the same time. That's a heating and cooling substance. So how can a ghost decrease the temperature while at the same time set off an EMF reader? Same principle. And that is the theory that brought Dr. John Foldy into the picture.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Foldy. I teach at SUNY Albany, and my research is in cognitive science, which is the study of the nature of consciousness. And I've been working with John Griffin because I'm interested in the type of work that he does in paranormal research. And the reason for this is that there are a lot of things that the current paradigm in science about the nature of consciousness exclude. Scientifically, exploring the possibility of life after death and hauntings or communication with disincarnate spirits is something that has to be taken seriously and legitimately. And John Griffin is such a scientist. He's working with a team of people that are using the most sophisticated measurement systems to try to establish the possibility. Now again, we don't know any of this for sure, but we're just taking the initiative as scientists to explore these possibilities. So it's important for work like John's to be recognized and the scientific legitimacy of it to be understood so that we can critique and understand and learn from what we do find from looking at those other possibilities. If you want to hear more about what's called the primacy model of consciousness, my presentation, I did a keynote address for the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and we filmed it and it's on YouTube. So look under John Foldy, F-O-L-D-Y, or look under the primacy model of consciousness. Thank you.
We were able to start predicting where activity would occur before it happens using this theory. And that was just the basic breakdown of it. So seeing our perspective on research, how we use words to our advantage, that's all part of the interviewing investigative process. Listening to how things are phrased, how things are worded, that plays a role in it. Seeing, hearing, feeling, observing, all a part of the research and investigation process, and none of it can be ignored.